All right, so we'll get started with the project for today. Um, so I had in mind to do something spooky, like a horror film or something like that. Let me get some references. Keep it coming. Week 10 scripting AI. Yeah, and then if you don't know, if you do !YouTube in the chat, this gives you a link to the YouTube channel, and I've been sorting all of those Vex workshops or whatever you want to call them into a playlist, so it should be easier to kind of jump between the two of them, and hopefully go back if you missed a step or need a refresher or something like that. Spent all day saving out 1,200 textures. Hopefully you didn't do it all by hand. All right. So yeah, I had this idea with these fir trees, or like pine trees, or whatever you want to call them. Kind of spooky fog, atmospherics, volumetrics, or something like that. Can you send the download link to the Hershey commercial too? Yeah, so I don't know. The download link was shared to me through a Dropbox through the, I don't know if I can distribute that link, but I think if you look at the socials for that studio, this is a different name. I think this is them. They've posted good versions or whatever. Yeah, so if you look at their this or here, this is the direct link, I think, to the spot. So yeah, I think doing something with these trees, it's kind of a spooky, atmospheric thing. I really like the silhouette of them, kind of gnarly, spiky bits or whatever. And then I'm going to be using some models from Mantisa. I think that I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce their name, but under freebies, has these fir trees you can get that are these public domain license. So I've already downloaded them. It's a pretty big file. I was just doing the free 3K version or whatever. I think the 9K is like higher resolution textures. But yeah, this guy, I think it's Midge. On YouTube, he uses, I think, mostly Blender, but just following Typeranus. How's it going? All right, I think I can get it here. He's been doing some like live streams or demos or stuff like that. These art streams that are pretty cool to look in on. It's kind of similar to the Cool Zone vibe or stuff like that. Saw the YouTube. Thanks for making the jump over to Twitch, Typeranus. But yeah, he does pretty cool, nice kind of like abstract visuals and stuff like that. So even just looking at the process and stuff of his workflow is pretty cool as well. Alkama, you missed 30 minutes. It's okay. It was mainly introduction business and news, getting the latest updates and stuff like that. So I'm just getting started with the session or the project or whatever today. Yeah, and again, I'm going to be using these trees, this FBX format available here. Just a little catch up, a little chopping it up. The water cooler chat. Yeah, Okama, were you in the? I saw there was a big traffic jam of people getting out of Paris, or the speculation was that some people were returning back from because it was like the end of the holiday. You're confined. Yeah, I guess all those people leaving had like country homes or something like that that they could flee to. But yeah, I've been mostly confined in. It's not as strict with the government, but different people are like taking it more seriously than others here or whatever. But yeah, in San Francisco, I've been confined, but it's not too bad. Like for the most part, the air quality here has been pretty good, except for the fires. So you get out and do like go to parks and stuff like that. There's a pretty good amount of space to spread out to and everything. All right, where did these? Here it is. Here it's a sensitive political issue. Just code, make music, and drink. You just have your own party. You have your own little nightclub going around the clock. Thank you for the compliment, Alkama. Yeah, it's good to have this kind of hobby of at least doing something creative or with art. Um, Nice to spend the confinement time for everyone to do whatever they're pursuing or interested in or whatever. Reading up on programming or studying, getting into Houdini and all that. All right. So imported the Alembic of one of these trees. They're pretty high resolution. Like even the needles and stuff like that are baked into the geometry. So I'm going to probably be doing like packed primitives or instancing with it. I had imported the FBX and then the way I exported them. If you look at the viewport, press the 9 key, you look at the path attribute. So working with the FBX hierarchy or whatever, preserving these names is cool. Like if you want to do some, make your own LODs or whatever, I could split the trunk out. So this is like the higher resolution stuff. And then I think, let me just do another split with the pine needles. And then if you wanted to, you might be able to make like convert these into lines and then render them as strips or ribbons or whatever. So it's cool to have that flexibility in the naming convention or whatever with the Alembic. But yeah, I think I'm just going to be doing instancing, so I'm not going to be modifying them or changing the geometry too much. Let's get the test person body. Let's get all the fellas out here. Tommy, got a beefy, thicker boy. And this generic. So I just use these guys as it's a good thing to measure against. Like if you'd see here, this tree is gigantic compared to him. So bringing software in from Vue-Get Online or just from other software sources, sometimes you have to look at just make sure your model is coming in at the right units. So it's usually maybe a factor of like 100% or something around that. Let's just move this guy over. So I was doing the same thing with that explosion on Wednesday. Just having a character to keep a sense of scale too. 0.01 is the magic number. Nightmare Cheese, good to see you. I'm doing something kind of slightly spooky. I haven't picked or figured out an exact composition or anything to go along to yet. Let me just pin this so people can get a quick idea of what's going on. Houdini Sequoia National Park. But yeah, it's going to be something with trees and probably some atmospherics and stuff like that. So yeah, you just want to make sure you're working at this scale with Houdini, even if you're not doing simulations or anything like that. Like for lighting, the way that light decays, like the quadratic decay or whatever. Look at the units of light. This decay, the inverse square decay or whatever, that is very like dependent on scale and distances and things like that. So if you're working at different scales, like the way that light decays or diminishes as distance over space or whatever, like it makes a big difference for a sense of scale. So even if you're not doing physics simulations with gravity and stuff, it's still a good idea to work at the scene scale. The way Houdini works with volumetrics, like the size that your volume is occupying, the density is like units per area or whatever, so you want to be careful with that as well. Is there a unit size set up in general for this? Sometimes what I'll do is this match size node. Like if you plug this in and you do scale to fit and uniform scale, you can ensure that any model you have will fit or be this unit size. So it's basically saying the min and max, like the largest size of the bounding box will be set to 1. So this is kind of like a unitized dimension. And it can be useful, but it's not always the best. Like the tree that I brought in here, I was just comparing it against the template person. So that's usually a better way to do it. I mean, it requires some human work because you have to like visually check. If you want to automate a conversion process, you could do this match to size. And then like with units here, size, if I look at the Y for height, this is 23 meters. So all the units in Houdini are meters. So you could look up here like height of for tree. So they're saying anywhere from 10 to 80 meters. Could find like an average or something like that if you really wanted to. So if you had your plants or whatever, then I could set this size here to, if we're saying that this is going to be like 24 meters, I could set it like that. And then you know the largest dimension, or in this case, the height would be 24 meters. So instead of doing this transform, if I just wire it up like that, this is another way to explicitly say like, whatever your height is, make sure it's 24 meters. Is the body geo in real life size? Yeah, so these are in meters as well. They're 1.768 meters. So I think in feet is like 6 feet, maybe, roughly. Don't get these notifications. La Galactique. You should be getting them. I think the Discord is still churning them out. And then, I don't know, I haven't looked at the Twitch emails, but you should be getting, if you have it turned on or whatever, the emails from Twitch when the stream starts. So yeah, the notifications looks like they're working. Is an RS uncomfortable because the shader is less than matcha? Yeah, it's not as ideal in terms of customizability. Like the options and stuff that you have with it. But there's a benefit with the speed. So you just have a faster render in the end result. This is kind of with computer graphics in general, it's kind of always that way of like, do you want to completely uncompromise with your settings and have complete freedom, and then you'll probably have a really slow process, or do you want to work in like a kind of predefined method, and then you just sacrifice some of the controllability or options or whatever. This is just like different philosophies of the software. And then beyond that is like tweaking and stuff like that. Yeah. So speed, quality, cost, like there's several different factors with licensing comes into play and all of that. With Arnold, for example, some of the philosophy that goes into Arnold's, the renderer's development is like, we don't really care. I mean, obviously they're trying to make it as fast as possible, but they're trying to make it as human, artistically friendly as possible. So the idea is that like the artist's time or the human's time is more important than the computer's time. So if you don't have to spend as much time like hacking or tweaking values, you just use like expected predictable results and it takes longer, that's advantageous. But Redshift is a slightly different philosophy, especially with like artists that are just using a single machine, they don't have a render farm. You kind of have to spend a little bit more of your own time like optimizing things and hacking things to get quicker results. All right, so we have just scattering points. I'm just gonna start with like maybe 25. Now I think with this tree, sometimes what I end up doing with these packed Alembics, I think Redshift has trouble with them. So you could unpack the base model or the high-res geometry. Yes, there's a new scatter tool with 18.5. I'm not using 18.5 yet for these streams, at least. For anytime I'm using Redshift, I'm still using 18 for right now. But yeah, I could talk a little bit about those tools. I mean, there are workflows and stuff that were already pretty easy to achieve, but just having like the common workflow and stuff like that behind it, it's a little bit nicer for everyone to be using like a unified or the same process if they want. Like it just makes exchanging files and stuff like that easier. Ulararte, how's it going? So what I'm doing here is converting this to the soup primitive. So I guess it already is a polygon soup. I think this will ignore like existing ones, but just making sure that stuff is a poly soup will be a little bit more optimized for the renderer. And then packing it again. So this switches from up here, this is a packed Alembic, and then now this is a packed Geo. So it's a little bit different, and for Redshift, I think it's easier for it to understand. Thanks for coming over from the YouTube videos. Yeah, it's good to see people making the jump over to the live broadcasts. So you can do copy to points now to get these. So this is like where the 18.5 tools would come into handy. Sometimes what I'll do is if you just do like a file node, you want to get a visualization. Like with 18.5, they have those fancy arrows that will show you the coordinate space. You can do something similar with this. You can also make your own arrows and stuff, like people have done that before, but just having everything wrapped up in a simple tool, it's a bit better than everyone kind of making their own versions of it or whatever. Yeah, so it's just a difference of like learning and working quickly or whatever, I guess, is really good and helpful to know the step-by-step process and the reasons people do things. But yeah, it's also good to have the quick kind of high-level tools, the shelf tools and stuff like that, if you need to get results or stuff really quickly. So I'm making the normal attribute. This is just like the up direction. It's a bit redundant or confusing. So the normal direction is the direction that these trees will face along, or the z-axis will be the same as this normal attribute. So if I look up here, tried to turn these normals on. Might be a little small. Just change the scale of these normals. This should be the direction that z is for the trees. So generally when you're instancing or stuff like this, you just flip it to lie like along the z-axis. If you look here, you can see the blue thing is pointing that direction. I think I can do it like that. So just 90 degrees, boom. And now they're all going up. And then I'm randomizing the up vector. I think if you do, might not show up. If I go back to the file, so what this is doing is it's keeping the normal direction, but it's spinning randomly to rotate them. So they're all still pointing in the same direction, but we just rotate them to have them lying like kind of how a tree would go or whatever. You're just spinning them randomly around the normal. So yeah, now if I bring in the full trees, you can see it does the level of detail or whatever with the bounding boxes. I think up here, if you switch this, you can optimize this stuff here. Like, does this change it? This might be something different there. You can also do the packed edit. And then 3D viewport, if you want, you could do like display as bounding box. So if you want to work more quickly, if you're doing lighting or whatever, it can be nice to change this. For like really big scenes, you might just want the centroids if you're doing like weeds and grass and plants and stuff like that. All right, so I'm just gonna maybe make this line more, the ground, the scatter area or whatever, more of like a strip. And then with the scatter, usually turn off relax iterations, just to get more of a natural, completely random distribution. And relax will try to evenly like space them or separate them. All right. So we got the trees, a little bed of forest or something like that. If you are following along, I can do a file share. These trees aren't going to come across perfectly for you, but if you want, there's the link to where I got them from. So yeah, if you're just looking for this layout that I've done, if you substitute your own files in or whatever, you should get them. That was again just from this Mantisa.xyz, the top left one, the fir trees. All right, so I'm just gonna do a quick render, see what we're working with, see what's working. Just make sure you have the instance SOP level pack primitives. Make a camera. We go to a longer lens. I think this reference here, a lot of these references are using really long lens, or like you can tell kind of the perspective is flattened out. I think that's, I don't know. This is like a really wide angle, so you have more varying lines. I think that kind of flattening everything out looks a little bit better. So this is why I'm using a, just go to 36 for like a full frame sensor. And then these focal units here will actually represent like real lenses you would use for a SLR camera. Tree generator with L systems. Yeah, they have, it's always hard for me to get like, I'm not using them because it's hard to get some, like really dial in some specifics to match the species of tree you're trying to make. But it is a really good starting point. And then even this one, like the generic one, if you just add some randomness and increase like the generations and stuff, you can get really close to some nice trees with it pretty quickly. This, one of the problems I run into is like the turtle syntax or whatever, the L system rules. I always forget the this just looks like gibberish to me. I forget the meanings of them. It means like you're envisioning like a turtle or something starting at the bottom and he's turning like left or right or branching off. It's like that's what each of these characters stands for. But yeah, it does that, and like regex, certain like weird syntaxes I haven't brushed up on recently. But if you click the gear with this, you can get other things like this dandelion. They have a expression and this angle that will like spread it out over time. So you can get a sense of like these rules, but you definitely have to do some reading and stuff like that. Yeah, speed tree is really good. Some studios and stuff will bake things out with SpeedTree. This Midge here has a good library of models as well. So if you're looking for other, this is more generic trees or things like that. This is a good, just for quick kind of, he's working as like a VJ generating like these loops more of like kind of Beeple style or whatever, like doing everydays. So just having models kind of ready to go or whatever is helps you work really quickly. But yeah, the L system is really cool. Some people have made tree generators for Houdini as well that I think you could buy on like Gumroad and stuff like that give you pretty good results as well. All right, so we have the camera, the longer lens to get this kind of more like a Stanley Kubrick, or just gives it a more kind of graphic effect of flattening the space out like that. You could get the redshift node. I'm usually turning on this SOP level updates, so it will more quickly pull in changes that you made if you moved things around. And then the GI, just to get bounce diffuse bounce light. Let's see what we get. my default cameras will get, they're rendering like a 2K, 1920 by 1920. So you haven't tinkered with 18.5 even a bit? I've been using it for explosion stuff, and I've been playing around with it on the side here. Just gonna switch this. So we'll do like 1K renders or whatever to be a bit quicker. But yeah, with my Wednesday streams, I've been looking into the explosion stuff with it. Some flip books of some of that stuff. They're up on YouTube as well. So this is using the new explosion, like they have some new sculpting tools and stuff like that to give you the initial like spiky shapes. But for these like rendering stuff with Redshift, I'm still sticking with 18. So I have the terminal or things like that. You can set it up with aliases. So like if I do this, then I'm in 18.5. And then if I do that, I'm back in Houdini 18 for like launching it. You could open up both of these at once and then export geometry and render it with Redshift that way, or do certain things like that. For today's, I'm just gonna make it all in 18 to keep things a little bit more simple. But yeah, once Redshift becomes stable with 18.5, I'll probably switch like fully over to that. But yeah, for right now, I'm just kind of bouncing around back and forth. So let's go into the light. This is kind of what I was talking about with like the attenuation, how that is important with scale and distance and stuff like that. Using it right now, but haven't touched much of the new stuff. KineFX. Yeah, the KineFX stuff is really cool. I think Intagma did a tutorial with that. I had been playing around with it a little bit. Doing some really cool like transform kind of stuff with it, similar to some of the Simon Holmendal type stuff. Is this it? So yeah, that's really cool with it. I think there are some cool generic improvements with it for. This is the Intagma tutorial that they had put with on their YouTube page and everything, doing this like unfolding. So all this stuff is with this new rig attribute wrangle, and then the skeleton that will create I thought that there was an easier way to visualize these transforms. But yeah, if you go to intagma.com, you should see, I don't know, these joints. I guess they're showing up a little bit better. I don't know. There should be a way to visualize like the axis and stuff with them. But yeah, there's some good like overall improvements with the node graph and like some shortcuts and stuff with 18.5. But yeah, for right now for this, I'm just gonna stick with 18. But yeah, the CG Wiki, Matt Estella's page, he's done a good little write-up of the KineFX and like just getting started. And I think some other people on Twitter and stuff like that have been doing some nice little like tips and tricks with it. Yeah, I mean, all around with the 18.5 stuff, it's a super powerful release. It's just amazing how much side effects like pushes to improve and update like the usability, the user friendliness or whatever of their software, and just listening to the community. Even things like Vex, like adding dictionaries to Vex so you can work with JSON databases and stuff more easily, like adding that little bit into it is amazing. Like if you talk to people doing like pipeline stuff with Maya, with Mel or PyMel or whatever, like they always complain about what a nightmare. Like Autodesk just never listens to their complaints about it, but Side Effects is really cool that they listen and pay attention to their users like that. Extremely picky directors, supervisors. The guy, you make the one you know how to handle. I mean, it's, I don't know, like working on projects and stuff as the effects artist, at the end of the day, you're kind of, you just kind of have to do what they say. I mean, as long as they're paying you, you just have to make it clear that, like, tell them a small change like that, just, it's going to take a day, and eventually, like, the producers might know that, just gives the producers more of a sense that, like if you say that will take one day or that's going to take 2 days, the producers can push back against the supervisor and kind of tell them like, all right, we just need to finish this or whatever. But yeah, it's always a struggle, a back and forth or whatever. If you want more creative control or like freedom or stuff like that, sometimes you can just, like once you finish something, if you've told them it's going to take a day, then you kind of, if it takes you like 3 hours, then you have the rest of the day to really finesse and like add your creative input and stuff like that. So that's a good way to kind of like schedule or block out things of like, this is going to take a week, and then you know that you can technically do it in 3 days, but then in the next like two or 3 days or whatever, you can get it looking exactly the way you want it to, and really nice and everything like that. You left VFX for film, too many iterations. Yeah, I guess it's every, I guess it depends too, just on the client and the studio and stuff. Different places will work at different paces, and also the your role of like junior versus senior artist or stuff like that. Like if you build up more of a trust with a supervisor or director or client or whatever, eventually they'll give you more leeway or creative freedom or whatever, because they'll be less nervous about like things like that. All right, so I might just add more trees. I don't know about doing maybe like an aerial kind of view. I'm also going to add a little bit of randomness to the scale. Whoa, 31 dimensions. So with the P scale, the uniform scale of the trees, it's not really going to be physically accurate to have them, like one of them that's that big. So I'm just going to go with a range of like 80%. So 0.8 to 1. There is some variation of height, just like different levels of growth, but you could see here like the fully grown ones are the ones that have needles and stuff. They're all over like a certain threshold of height. Yeah, I think with side effects it's really good because they're more of like a small company, so they're able to really adapt to what their users need and stuff like that. With Autodesk, I think it's just such a big company, and their main clients or their main source of income can be like CAD, like engineering, architecture, automotive, like oil and gas drilling and stuff like that. Like they deal with some really big markets, so the visual animation, like that market share is just such a little like a size of their portfolio that they just don't really care about it too much. I don't know if this is too much of an overlap here. I might take the light. I think I have too many trees. It's kind of slowing everything down. Could also go into, I think this is my kind of pared down version of it without the needles. Let's take a look. Okay, this is just the needles. So if you just do like the skeleton of the tree, it's included. All right. Do this. Okay. So this is just the branches and the trunk now. Now I have a little bit quicker kind of render layout visualization of things. So there is some like intersections, but I think that should be okay. Like it'll be pretty natural looking. Let's see what we can do with like this pyramid style composition. If you want, you could do some culling, like a frustum. Sometimes I've set it up with the volume node, doing this from camera. You can eliminate things that are out of the view of the camera. That can speed things up. I'm just going to keep going with this for right now. See if it got a little bit faster, hopefully. All right, let's do maybe sphere. I don't know what's gonna happen if I just try to bury this inside of stuff. Might be too slow to render, but I'm gonna try to see what happens with this. Just reduce like the, go to 1 GI bounce to try to speed things up a little bit. It's kind of spooky. You guys ever watch the really old It's like when side effects first made instancing or something like that. Is the same guy that did the Houdini 18.5 tutorial or the 18.5 like demo live stream. This is interesting. This got my mind on it with the spooky
It is possible.
spooky vibes. I think he ended up making like a little animation and everything with this. It was pretty cool. Pretty scary. So I don't know if this light is just over. Use the atmosphere fog. I might can either do that the global atmosphere. You can make like some fog and stuff in the like using actual voxels as well if you need more control over it. Sometimes I have some issues with the global like fog because it will cover up. We'll just kind of take away contrast from your entire scene and like flatten everything out a little bit too much. I might give it a try. Yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty cool to try to accentuate like the middle of this little forest composition or whatever. I'm probably gonna add another light, more of like a global. This is gonna be the mysterious glow coming from the forest. And then I'll probably try to get back to something closer to this vibe with the rest of the environment. So yeah, there was an older stream I did with the making some like rolling fog using Vex over volumes. That was pretty cool, kind of haunting mystery. If you kept it grainy, it could be stars. Yeah, I think it could be pretty cool with it's almost like looking up through at the bottom of trees or something like that. Those are pretty cool renders and stuff to do as well, with just like camera line on the ground pointing like straight up or whatever. Can get really nice compositions and stuff that way. All right, so I'm just gonna spend like one more minute trying to get this. Felt like it was better a little bit earlier. with imported geo, you can make example the leaves move or fall. Yeah, for sure. I'm doing instancing and stuff like that, so it's a little bit harder to manipulate this without filling up the memory pretty quickly. But there's definitely things people have done, like creating a rig, especially with the Kinefx stuff. That'd be a really cool thing to look into. If you look at video games, sometimes what they'll do is like a shader-based noise to kind of like distort space over time, like it's moving around or whatever. The full body IK works great on a tree. Yeah, so I think Matt Estella on Twitter was doing a bit of stuff like that. Oh no. This is like getting stuck in the tree right there or something. You doing FFX only as work, or more like a generalist? I've been doing for paid work more traditional kind of effects and stuff like that. But with streaming, just I think it's a little bit too specific to only do effects, and then also I'm in general pretty interested in spreading out and doing some more. Just gets boring. I don't know, doing the same. Only focusing on effects and not focusing in, I don't know, if you're interested in like photography and lighting and just kind of art and design and stuff in general, it's nice to spread out a little bit. I think this is starting to work. Took me longer than I thought, but it's starting to work. All right, so we'll do a second light. Just try to get something cutting in from the edges of things. So I think you have the light too close to stuff and it's going to look a little fake. This is going to be like, if you notice too much of the attenuation of it, it will kind of ruin the sense of scale of things. I think going more for like a rim light could be cool. I'm just changing the spread of the light. So you get some nice focused kind of directional shadows and light shafts and stuff like that if you really kill the spread. So it's almost turning it into like a spotlight or a kind of like closing the barn doors on a light on set or whatever. I might be going a little too wild with these color temperatures. Just leave it somewhere pretty. So I'm thinking maybe less trees. It's like a cloud. Yeah, it kind of has that fluffy scattering kind of look is pretty nice. It's very soft or whatever. Um, so I'm gonna try to get rid of some of these trees. I really like this one here at the tip though. So sometimes if you're really set on like certain the way that these attributes kind of resulted, then you just want to start deleting from the bottom of the chain or whatever, just to make sure you're not missing certain ones or whatever. So like if I say we have 75 trees, if I just do 0 to 55, you would see I'm still keeping certain ones that I'm liking or whatever. If you want, you could do sort random. So you have different outcomes or whatever that you can select from. This is a nice non-destructive way of like, it's kind of like a sculpture, like you're just chiseling away at stuff, but you're keeping like the original distribution and everything like that. Let's try it with it. Just have like a few left now. Looks like it's not enough. We either need to make them bigger or like wider. Just go back a little bit. See how that works. Probably want to turn off the visibility of the light as well. Unless you want to have like an orb or something like that floating around. This could be a little less intense. See what happens making the volume. So yeah, this attenuation is a little bit of what I was talking about. Could work well for this, but sometimes when you have like textures and too much stuff, it can kind of kill like the contrast of everything. So attenuation is basically like treating, there's some murkiness or something like that, and you're seeing that the camera, like over time, the visual just like fades out stuff over space essentially. So you go like really high with it. It's like looking through a very dark fog or something like that. I'm just adding some more trees back in. This might be a situation with the main light, adding a texture to it to break up like a gobo Cucoloris, break up some of the some of these light shafts or whatever. So it looks like this one is kind of taking down the overall intensity, but you can get some a little bit more natural or whatever, like variation. I think if you bring this spread really low, you can start to see a little bit of the it's just like a non-uniform or non-grid silhouette that the light turns into. Let's go back to the I don't know if you want something that's filling out more of the space or whatever. Seagull Rush, how's it going? I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in there. It's almost Halloween. I don't know if it might be cool to think about chugging. You're in Unity. I've been wanting to check out that effects graph, the shader building and stuff in Unity. I think I might go into break this out into 3 lights. So this will be glowing orb. This is going to be like ambient backlight. We'll do one more kind of rim. Which scary movie will we watch for Halloween? There's a few on my list. I don't know, apart from the news. I'm a big fan of the original Suspiria. The 77 one. The lighting in it is really good. The kind of composition and all that stuff. It's amazing. The soundtrack for it is cool as well. I might rewatch it. It's been a little bit, a couple years since I've seen it. The guy that directed it, Dario Argento, I think. He has a ton of horror movies that are pretty cool. Yeah, Inferno. So they were meant to be like a trilogy or something, I believe. The way that they're laid out. But yeah, this one, just the colors and stuff like that. This is like the first time they were using like a Technicolor or like a new film process or something like that. So the way that they were able to capture just the vibrancy or like the saturation of stuff, whatever, is really cool to see. But yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any movie recommendations? Dank Master Quinn. How's it going? I also have on my list, I might sub this one out as well, but the Witch, the A24 one, I think. And then The Lighthouse from the same studio. Kind of black and white. This is a good Halloween pick. spooky. All these ones are Academy format though, so it's a little bit weird to watch them now. It's like the 4:3, the really old aspect ratio. Like the old 1940s film style, before even anamorphic or 16:9 or all that stuff. There Will Be Blood, that's a really good one. "28 Weeks Later," that's a good pandemic one. We get to that video in a second. Seagull Rush, it's my computer's going super slow right now with the render going. As soon as I halt this one, I'll get it. I don't want to do you injustice and have a bad frame rate for your video. Let me turn that off for right now. We go into the rim. I'm just gonna pull that over. I think this fog is working pretty well. Could try to get a good spooky bit with it. September. You're hanging in there. We're doing the spooky business today. Insidious. I don't know if I saw that. James Wan. The Mandy, like a newer horror film or whatever, I was a big fan of that. It's kind of similar to that style of Argento, with just like loud music and synth, like wild synth music and bright colors and stuff. It's a bit of like cyberpunk vibe or whatever to it as well. You hate horror? There's certain horror movies I can do well with, but certain ones that are just like jump scares and stuff like that, I'm not as big of a fan. Shit yourself at night. All right, I think this is a better angle for the rim light. You could always turn off, lower the volume contribution for it, so you can just get a better. This bit down here is a little bit distracting. All right, let's turn the ambient. Yeah, I don't know. So I was scaling the top of this sphere to make it more of like a tube. Could be cool to have some directional spill out or something. Got the eye. It's getting better. It's just a practice and process or whatever, controlling focal points and learning the tools, the visual tools. Yeah, let's check out Seagull Rush's VFX test. So this is all VFX graph. This is the stuff you're doing with the volume. Yeah, I really like the color, like the intensity of this stuff. It feels like sparks or fireworks or something like that. This is someone's head exploding. It was like the meme of with the brain power. the what is that called? Galaxy brain. With the Alembic exported from Houdini. Nothing fancy. Yeah, it's the FX graph is a pretty big thing to tackle, I think, but it's interesting. I don't know, just getting like quicker results. That's the main reason I'm thinking about learning it, checking it out, or whatever. Getting closer to developing like real-time effects could be pretty cool with it. I think I saw this recently. Yeah, this was really cool. This is a bit of a spooky. It's a good. I'm always a fan of like the gold and white colors together. Yeah, the cloth. The fluid sims to me are really. I'm always super into that. But yeah, so I think here, like they're doing a kind of cloud tank type of stuff. Like the whole area here, they're doing a fluid simulation, and then just advecting let the particles like fly off of the rim or whatever. Pretty cool. Kobe. This was a tribute right after he passed away. I think there's some special snake stuff with cinema. I don't know, but I saw a lot of the cinema artists they're very easily putting snakes into their work. They're doing something cool with the focal plane here. It's like so shallow. All right, let's get back to this. So I want to do something maybe with the ground to break it up a little bit. Particles. Yeah, if you go that wild with the depth of field, it's easy to turn it into a mess, but they did a good job kind of controlling the composition. I'm doing 18.5, but sometimes, not right now. I'm like in between, jumping back and forth until Redshift is less buggy and more easy to use with 18.5. So I'm just gonna kind of noise up a grid or whatever for the bottom of everything. I just want something you would kind of see through in certain areas. I don't know, I might put just like a very dark black shader on it or whatever. But I'm just gonna try this out, see what happens. I think we could do 35s. See what it looks like. But yeah, I'm excited to fully get into 18.5 once all the tools and everything are ready for it. I think I just need some shaders. Make sure that worked. All right. If you guys are following along, we'll do another file update. It's not, I'm using a lot of textures and files on disk, so it's not super, interesting of a file. Let's take the ground, just make it almost completely black. The trees, just add some roughness. See what happens. So yeah, I think it's a little bit better kind of blocking out that area of the ground. It might be nice to split out the shaders on the leaves and the trunks so that the trunks are just darker, but could try that in a little bit. Gonna go in and do some quick tweaks to the camera. I usually just make a copy of my current camera just in case I really like mess it up, want to go back to it or something. So yeah, I'm gonna try to keep that peak triangle kind of composition, but just lower the camera down to get more of the bottom of the trees or whatever in frame. Your computer wrote you? If you open his files again, I quit. So, furnace, as soon as you open the file, everything just starts heating up. I'm just gonna get rid of the volume contribution with the rim light. Billions of polys. Yeah, it's I don't know. Some of it's about using things efficiently as well, but this tree model is definitely a pretty heavy one. It's like 2 million points or something. If you were going to use it a lot, it might make sense to take the time to like down res it and make some proxies or something like that. But yeah, it's definitely a hefty tree. Yeah, I don't know about this stuff at the bottom right of my frame. Happy little tree. I'm gonna try to do something about that. Might just the rest of this composition and stuff is starting to look pretty good, so I might just kind of branch out here. The super good thing about this scatter workflow makes it really similar, really easy to kind of composite different scatter sets. Needs a cabin. Needs like an axe or some more haunting stuff. So we'll just make 5 trees with this second auxiliary scatter. Ooh la, Gaba DSG. Ooh la 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 la. Oof. It's pretty cool, even without the trees. All right, let's see. Your smile is radiant. Thank you. So this scatter blocked out what I was doing there. No cabins. That's another really good horror movie, The Cabin in the Woods. Kind of have a little bit of that orange glow stuff happening with some of them. Sigourney. Is it Sigourney Weaver? But at the end, the one shot at the end with all the bad guys. This one was, let's not. If it's 5 or 6 years old, it's maybe 10 years old. But yeah, they have some. They included some monsters or models from like Left 4 Dead or some of the Valve games. It's a cool little Easter egg. They have like the little. I don't know. It's cool how they were pulling from other horror like canons or universes and kind of mix and matching them. A lot better than kind of Wreck-It Ralph or what was the Ready Player One? Is like just a little over the top with the nostalgia, the kind of cultural citations or whatever. All right, so I'm just gonna try out some other scatter seeds. I was mainly interested in trying to correct this area. It's definitely getting better, but see what we can do. Put a big one there. Boom. It's a little bit better. Put a pumpkin in there. This is the implied pumpkin. It's like someone put so many candles inside of their pumpkin that it's illuminating the whole forest. Yes, Gaba DSG, I'm working, standing up. There's a desk, a chair and stuff behind me that sometimes I use on my Mac or on the laptop for doing emails or editing or stuff like that. But more ergonomic for me to work standing up. Let's try getting some of the noise blurriness resolved and see what it looks like. So I think with the reflection, so all this stuff, we can turn it down. So I did the same idea with the GI bounces just to really optimize the render time of stuff. It's something working standing up is once you do it, once you get in the habit of doing it, you'll build up the stamina, I guess. It makes you take breaks or whatever. Like, it's nice to sit down for 30 minutes or an hour and take your mind off what you're working on, get fresh eyes or whatever. Yeah, it's not as tiresome as you would think. I don't know, like maybe easing into it for a week, doing like 2 hours the first day and 4 hours the second day or something like that is a pretty good way to do it. You guys want to see the, let me see if it works. This is like the way the screens or whatever are set up is like pretty big monitors, so it's nice to have like some space to shift around or whatever and move around. Pogars. So yeah, I think it's looking pretty cool with the noise fully resolving. I'm rendering this half res, so it's like 1K, but I think it could be pretty cool. I think I could turn the noise settings down a little bit more, but yeah, there's such a detailed model. You kind of get it's like cheating. You get all that stuff for extra detail for free. Let's just kill that for right now. I might play around with the color for this like ambient backlight, just the temperature of it. See if we get like some cooler, different colors into it or something. I think overall the night sky is a little, there's some more like blues in it or something like that. I might drop it down like one stop, so it's not as it's not competing with the other stuff too much. Let's just play around with the volumetrics. We also have the post effects with the let me see them. Can give you nice little finishing touches. I don't know about having the light. You can kind of see like the grid, the rectangle of it a little bit. I don't know if we want to mess with it too much. I think it's a little better having that higher. It's like not as distracting of a bloom around it or whatever. This gap, just need to fix that maybe. Probably just going to be somewhat lazy with it and just kind of keep manually moving these scatters around. I think if you really want to have some control, like you could just do transform, and then kind of manually like move stuff around that way. You just look at the image below that. That should cover it up. I think that's a little bit fixes that issue. This one down here, I don't know. Could always crop it out or do something if you really don't like it. I think it's getting pretty close. Let's just take the trees. Gonna boost their intensity. Start to go to the 2K. Diamond. It's a little bit of a I don't know. There's some issues with the stuff, the sky a little bit, but it's definitely a cool draft. Cool test. Let's just raise the max samples. I don't know. Kind of want to see what it looks like with a little bit more like bounce light. I'll start just a bucket render, and hopefully it's not super slow. We'll try to see if we can get a quick look at the close to final result. Really, the GPU isn't enjoying this the workload. All right, came back. You resisted putting simulation today. Yeah, it's a bit lazy on my part, but definitely helps you get a better result. As I was working in more of the generalist style today of just kit bashing the free models and moving them around and stuff like that. Those, thank you. Those people that do the everydays, they have really impressive like libraries of assets and tools, like little dioramas and stuff like that that's ready to go. Gotta show Houdini's good for everything. Yeah, I mean, if I was to add some simulation, it could be cool to do like a gas or some smoke rolling through everything. It's not just VFX. Yeah, I think more and more Houdini is becoming kind of the go-to kind of 3D application almost. I've been seeing some people on Twitter like dropping Cinema to come to Houdini. I don't know if they're just frustrated with Maxon for business reasons or like licensing reasons or stuff like that, but the Houdini like licensing and even the apprentice model, like it's pretty, makes it pretty easy to pick up. Chris Arn, been away from Houdini for 2 weeks. I'm still on 18 for today for using Redshift, but yeah, I've been doing some explosion stuff with 18.5. I think 18.5 is a really good jump in features and just overall improvements. Yeah, if it's not a rabbit hole, it can be. That is the one biggest like complaint with Houdini, is that it's just such a different workflow compared to other 3D applications, and then there are still kind of like blind spots within the software where something that you think should be really easy to do is drags you into a rabbit hole of like, oh, now you need to do a bunch of super technical stuff that a lot of people aren't aware of. I don't know if the specular on this stuff is maybe a little bit too sharp still, but it's pretty cool. It's like a sparkly. Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, that was how I had gotten into Houdini, was like, I was more experienced with Maya and Nuke at the time, so I was just doing Houdini, like fitting it into my process where I knew that I could do stuff easily, and then I knew that I could like export, render, and get 100% of the way there with Nuke or with Maya. But I think it's a good approach if you're, depending on your background and stuff, like you're just gradually trying to challenge yourself to do more and more stuff within Houdini, if you have the time in your projects and stuff like that. Seen this CGI short where a drop of blood spills on the ground and dissolves on the rock floor. Know how the fluid sim works, but the part when it turns into acid, it's hard to know without. Do you have a link to the video or anything like that? Yeah, it's hard to know for those types of like dissolving effects. I'm guessing like you might want to use particles. What I would start with doing would be like a flip simulation for the blood that's very like the surface tension and kind of blobby, and then you're just taking the mesh, the VDB like fluid mesh, or the polygons, like the surfaced flip simulation, and then you're kind of doing a dissolve or like a transition of that to particles, so it's actually like dispersing into individual points or something like that. My stuff right here is going really slow right now, but if you look at like the Krakatoa stuff for 3ds Max, they have some dissolve effects for it, like kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Like this is a vehicle. This was like a Mini Cooper or something, and they're converting it into a ton of particles, like millions of particles. That's how I would start. I mean, it's hard to know without looking at the stuff. But basically you have like a really bigger flip simulation, and then you're just like fading it out and using curl noise or something like that. So it's like kind of getting blown around by the wind or dissolving. You might be able to do it even without a particle simulation with just like some noise and stuff over time. But doing this kind of like for magic effects or spells or stuff, but for acid like dissolving, it could be cool. You could do like transition in the shader, like it's corroding the stuff it touches. That could be cool as well. Doing like a wet map effect or something, like attribute transfer. When KinEffects is complete, it'll be fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely getting very close to being like super friendly for generalist workflows. I mean, hopefully it will get there quickly, but it's like one of the dreams is being able to do like make your own little characters pretty quickly, get them with a groom with hair, fur tools, and then that gets like incorporated into the rig. The Vellum simulation happens like with clothes and hair, and you would just be able to pump out little animations. Like no other software lets you do that all like in the tool that well yet. Like with Maya, the XGen stuff isn't super procedural or super kind of reusable. And then a lot of people will use other third-party and like Shave and a Haircut or Yeti and that kind of stuff. But like having a procedural stuff in Houdini that you can really work quickly with is the goal. Do you do Twitch overlay designs for hire? I don't have a ton of experience. I mean, I just kind of hacked my stuff together here, but I'm not super. I'd recommend probably checking with someone more experienced doing the Twitch overlays. I don't even really have I just put like some images in my OBS right now. Is not even a super fancy one. Do vertex iterative proximity detach. Add some wind. So yeah, they have that the vertex iterative proximity stuff you should be able to do pretty easily out of the box. Like they have oh my god, Antauri, thank you for gifting 5 what did you do here? Thank you so much for the gift subscriptions. Thanks for checking in. I mean, if you're serious about getting an overlay or something, you have something similar, feel free to reach out to me. It's not my main area of expertise, but if you really need help, I can look into it. Yeah, the shaders in Houdini. That's, I don't know, it's, I think, Rohan was doing some stuff pretty interesting recently, like using height fields to kind of replicate substance. You could bake things. I mean, you could kind of already do it right now, but it's just not super intuitive. Like it's not, they don't have the tools all built for it. You have to do a lot of stuff from scratch. But yes, I think Simon Homendahl and some of those people were doing cops to generate textures and things like that. So this is a little bit different. I don't know. I mean, the way I would think about this, you might even want to do like a height field or something like that to, you could do it very easily with like a height field if you are experienced with them and modifying values. If not, if you look at like footprint solver for Houdini, there's some, I don't know if these tutorials are super out of date, but it might be useful to watch. Like having a character walk through snow or stuff like that, they set that up with this op solver, and it's a similar effect of just like what they're basically doing is a peak sop, or like moving the mesh down whenever the character is walking through it. You could try to do something similar with flips. If you're really experienced with height fields or want to learn more about them, you could try to set that up with a height field. And it should, if you have it set up properly, like you could get it to interact with your flip simulation live. Yeah, it seems like a pretty interesting effect. I didn't realize it was like the acid was eating the geometry away. Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably going to leave it here. Pretty long, beefy render or whatever, but it's starting to work. I think some of this, I'd prefer some of this stuff to be a little bit more crunchy. Like just the silhouettes, less of a bleed in. And then maybe some variation. With the redshift, you can make some noise, like procedural noise, to break up this fog in the using a shader. I should have done that. UFO. It's abducting all the pumpkins or something like that, like sucking them up. But yeah, it's pretty fun one today. A bit of a more generic generalist workflow. If you guys want the file again, do a final update. Yeah, and again the tree model, very kindly provided for free here. Spooky. So yeah, Sunday. What is it? Sunday is the 1st. Yeah, so Sunday will be the 1st of November. We'll be doing part 3 of the Vex coding for artists workshop. Going deeper into the sine and cosine, the spherical dimensions. I'll put together the social teaser or whatever pretty soon, but it's going to be making something, one of these trigonometry. Get out your protractors. It's going to be making something similar to this kind of nested. This is what I was calling this, like pendulums or epicycles, is like planets orbiting stuff or things like that. It's a pretty cool effect. But yeah, we'll be continuing that. If you want to get caught up, you go to the YouTube. Just go to my YouTube channel, !YouTube in the chat. And you'll see this playlist with the first two weeks scene files as well in the descriptions and all of that. So yeah, and then the Discord as well if you want to get the archive of these streams, check that out. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Friday, almost Halloween. Enjoy your spooky movies that you guys had on your list. You had some good recommendations today. All right. So it looks like Blake Catherine is online. We'll do the weekly Friday raid. You guys can share some of the, which is a pretty cool tree. Might be spooky as well. But yeah, everyone enjoy hanging out with Blake for the rest of the day. See you guys on Sunday.